Your guess is as good as mine. I just know we have the rubric for the oral presentation, but we don't have a rubric for the essay.
Yes.
So.
We're gonna go with part of phase 2 project. Do you think?
Well, it's really next week.
If it's real nice to do it tonight, that way it's more to be working on the thing,
Okay. Yeah, we can. We can. Sure.
I mean, you can set some tonight, some next week, I mean, that's fine.
No, that's okay. We can cover that material tonight, answer questions, at least. Maybe. Where is everybody? Well, I'll watch it too fast, I don't know. Let's see, so
3 minutes ago.
okay. It's not that fast. Hey, Tanner. How's it going?
Interview was
You decompressed?
yeah.
What's the Rust Fest?
It's my family philanthropy music festival in Pennsylvania.
I knew you were involved in some festivals and stuff. That's cool. All right.
Fearless of Marriage, 100% of the proceeds are donated to pediatric cancer. It's up year round.
Do you have a website?
We did.
I'll look it up. I love it. It's awesome. Oh, wait, what's going to happen if I do this? Let's do that. Hey, how's it going? Good. Good. Bring them on in. All right.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? Coming on in.
I think I checked your contact data. Me going. Because it's only my part that needs to be done. I know, I have this stuff, I just have to.
You just have to finish the background. That's what your section is.
Wait, I have to add more to the top of that paragraph? Worst part is me, because I'm the one who passed it.
Oh, really? It's the same thing.
No feedback.
All right, we should go ahead and get started. And good to see everybody. I'm glad you're here. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to send out an email my unfriendly stern email on attendance. But you're here, so I'm glad you're here, and we'll have a good evening. I think we'll just see where this takes us tonight. We'll had a request to reserve some time to talk about the next stage of the project, and I have comments and feedback from your first stage of the project, so it makes sense to do that as well. Where we are in the course, we're just kind of working through the different topics, and when we think about strategy, marketing strategy, and forming that. As you know, next week is really a week devoted, so Thursday on next week is really devoted to that project. So we'll probably have a little time next week to talk about stage 2 as well, but we can definitely tackle some of that material tonight just to kind of see where we are and what we're doing. And it really segues nicely. This week's material deals with organizational resources. Yeah. It is a bigger topic than you would suspect in marketing. This area, the literature, the emphasis, and the role of marketing and marketers, the CMO in the organization, have really shifted and changed a lot in the late 90s and early 2000s from a strategic perspective. I think I've probably mentioned to you in the past that, like in the 80s and even in the early 90s, the title and role of the CMO really didn't exist the way it does today. So in terms of the C-suite, where the C-suite, who's in the C-suite in the organization, it didn't always involve the chief marketing officer. That role didn't really exist. Just like today, we have chief information officers. That role didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. By and large, it really didn't. And so as we evolve and the business models evolve, these roles evolve as well. So in the early 1990s, a real important kind of step was made. A theory was developed that we'll talk about tonight, and it's based on organizational skills and their assets that they have available to them in order to form and create sustainable competitive advantages. And so the theory and the kind of concepts, again, found themselves in the marketing literature among marketing professors and then kind of filtered through and worked its way either as a reflection of what businesses were doing or the other way around. Businesses then emulated those roles. So this has kind of a longer history and that's why it's in the text and devoted a week to what we talk about. This idea of strengths and capabilities that firms acquire and develop in order to form competitive advantages. And so this week we talk about organizational resources, and another week, a few weeks from now, we'll talk about creating sustainable competitive advantages. It's its own chapter down the road, about 3 weeks or so, something like that. So they kind of go together, but anyways, first though, I haven't had a chance to look at last night's reflection, but it was, I think, a really interesting one when we talk about the role of the theater chains, and right, that was. And we talked about last week a lot of competitive analysis and how you think about competitors and how we want to gain information about them. And does anybody feel sorry for our main character, Mr. Altman? Right? Yeah, Mickey Altman. Mickey Altman runs, invested some money in this business, right? So what happened?
He was blocked basically by using clearance.
He was blocked. Yeah.
From getting the first run films and some of the newer releases.
Perfect. Yeah. And but some folks shook their head that they felt sorry for Mickey. They feel sorry for Mickey? Oh, some people are saying no. Good, this is perfect. We can duel it out, right? I mean, what was Mickey's, did Mickey make a mistake?
I kind of thought he did.
Talk about that.
I kind of worded my whole thing was about like how he positioned himself in the market. In my response, I argued that he should have competed or tried to create his own market segment, or like he was trying to reach a new market segment as compared to these chain movie theaters. So like the chain movie theaters, their thing is always like they want to get their movies out to the masses for like the newest release. And what I was tracking from the article was that this dude had a very, very like niche market. Like he had the whole thing that catered towards like Hispanic people, and he had like the cantina in there and all this, and he was trying to create an experience for this group of people. So I argued that he should have better marketed towards his group and maybe not tried to go after maybe the newest, hottest release, but showing like hit movies that maybe that population of individuals would have not seen at its original release date in their native language, and that he should have created more of an experience that engulfed his market segment so he would come back.
But then you're stereotyping a segment of people saying that they're only interested in watching these films if you're doing it that way.
So is that a bad thing?
Well, it is when you're trying to reach everybody.
Wow.
I mean, what I'm saying is, you're trying to reach everybody in a particular segment, and not everybody is the same. I imagine if we took a poll in here, it would be very vast difference in movies we wanted to see.
It's October, so we're all watching Halloween movies or scary movies, I guess, right now. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think he had an idea, but he executed it poorly because of the fact that he went into essentially an oligopoly as far as like the three big companies, and he can't really compete with their resources. He had like the right mindset, but made the wrong decisions with like trying to get like the #1 movies. Like he was never going to be able to do that.
So I love the idea that you're thinking about the structure of the industry and how market share and power is sort of concentrated.
Right.
This is one of the central themes to this story. And this is literally just an article, right? Just pulled from the headlines, but it tells a lot. There's this, maybe he didn't know, or maybe he didn't understand, or maybe he did, but he didn't think it was going to be a big deal, that there's this concentration within a handful of chains which have a lot of power because they reach a lot of people. And what he was going to have to face to go up against that, it sounds like his strategy, because of who he was and what he was doing, couldn't really be the same as theirs.
Right.
And then you mentioned this idea of resources. We're going to talk a lot about resources tonight. So if you can you think of some resources that those big chains have that give them an advantage?
Well, their exclusivity practice is the biggest resource that they have, and their like ability to play that out and like go through these like lawsuits and basically wear out the independent owners.
Cool.
So money, yeah.
So this exclusivity arrangement that they have, and this is really kind of this when the producers and the distributors who have these movies look to distribute them, they're creating, and because of this practice in the industry, they've created this relationship with certain chains or certain companies to create that exclusivity, right? So it's like a relational thing. If Mickey also had that relationship, if he had built up some type of a relationship that he could leverage, then maybe he could compete against that. But this is like one of these strengths or one of these things that the large chains have. They have this relationship with the distributors. And, we can kind of play this out a little bit. We could say, well, why would the distributors want to do this? Like, why is it in their best interest to do this?
Is there a safer bet?
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I mean, they want to make money, they want to sell, right? And if they know that the large chains are going to buy and maybe pay the higher price as well.
So there's a little bit of getting to the market. If the chains, I don't know the numbers, but if the chains can reach, 85 to 90% of the market, and these independents only reach 10 to 15% of the market, again, I don't know that those numbers are right, but just to suppose, then it's in the producers and the distributors' best interest to get these first-run movies, out to as much of the buyer market as they can. So we might actually think of this as a penetration rate. So if you're putting your product out there from a distribution standpoint, and you can get it into 90% of the market by this method, then that serves you well, right? So make money, but also get the movie out in a very timely, quick manner. Think about it like if you had a regular product, a tangible good, and you were looking to get it out on the market and you're concerned about shelf space at a retail store. You want to get your product out to as many places as you can, but you also want a good shelf space. So you want it to be present, you want it to be visible and available. And, if you go to these chains, then they can do that for you. You also could leverage this relationship to say, well, look, we want you, whatever media you put behind it, whatever advertising, we want to be prominently featured in your theaters. We want our posters up. We want you to pre-promote the event or the movie in advance. We want you to also promote for us as well. And the chains have the power and the resources to make a lot of that happen.
Now, in the article, if I remember correctly, it said 42% for the big three.
Is that right?
Well, that's just that's not, you're talking, the 85% is how many viewers?
I'm just saying, like, the overall market,
Yeah, the people.
Yeah, so
They
maybe
just
I'm wrong.
control 40%
Maybe
of the
it's not as high as I
screens.
think.
Yeah, that's what it said. It's
Okay.
42%. But my thing is, I owned a small business.
Yeah.
And we competed, it was an insurance agency.
Sure.
And we competed against Farm Bureau, Allstate. We competed against all of them.
But the insurance companies and stuff, it was the same process here. We fought against them because they would not allow us to get their brand, their big brand, because they were going to have that out to their franchisees and all of that.
Yeah.
But then they also had these other offshoot brands that they would send, basically the same insurance, and they would allow us to be able to get licenses for those. But in this situation here, the producers and distributors, their number one goal is to make money, to get it out there. So if you're literally going to get, it into only 42% of it, I gotta find it, yeah. AMC, Regal Entertainment Group, and Cinemark Holdings collectively, they control about 42% of the nation's movie screens.
Okay.
So now you got 58%.
I'll update that.
So now you got 58% that the independents are doing.
Or others.
Right, or others.
Yeah.
So,
All right, this
what's the
changes
problem?
things.
So what's the problem with letting everybody have a shot? Because now you're getting, instead of just 42%, maybe you get as high as up as 80%.
What is the problem?
Because the big theaters now are saying that they don't want, but the problem is with a lot of these independents are not necessarily, some of them are, especially the bigger independents, maybe in the same markets, but a lot of the other ones are in smaller, areas that the big ones aren't. And instead of keeping people from driving 50 miles, they put up a theater. So now they'll bring some people into theirs. They're not cutting in that much into those big boys' pockets.
They're not. What do you think?
One of the things that I commented on was it feels that the clearance practice feels almost like similar to predatory pricing, but just in a different manner. Like if it were to be practiced by any other industry, it would be, because predatory pricing in and of itself is illegal. And when you go to the movies, you're going to see the movie. It doesn't matter how much this individual is going to make his theater niche and tailor to a specific segment. You are going to see the movie, the new movie. I could say I'm going to go to AMC or the local theater. It's still the same movie regardless. It's still going to be, say, Marvel, like Infinity War, for example, right? No matter which theater I go to see it at, I'm going to see Infinity War. It's going to be the same movie. You take that away from the local theaters, or in this case, this specific independent, that just completely removes their ability to compete entirely. Because now, the whole reason for you to go to the movies is just pulled away. You can give me some fancy catering hall or, cantina, they said, in this situation, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going for the cantina, I'm going for the movie.
Right, the primary draw is the movie that you're going to see. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of talked about something similar, like, especially now with so many people, like, I think there's a lot of people that just won't go to the movies and just want to wait for everything to come out on streaming. Like, the advantage is having it right away. That's really the only advantage for a theater now. And so if you don't get that and you have to wait the same amount of time, you kind of lose that edge. And to his point, there's only so much differentiation between the theaters. At the end of the day, you're going for the movie itself. Like, the experience can only be so different.
So if that's all true, then why do they do it?
Is it legal?
Oh, it's
100%.
legal. But no, there is some cases out there right now.
It's a practice that's happened for a long time. It's been challenged in the courts, and I'm sure there'll continue to be challenges. Yeah. But what about this territory control and exclusivity? Why would that be a bad thing? I mean, you know that sales territories are carved out. Lots and lots of companies will carve out sales territories, especially if they have franchisees. If you are going to build a Burger King's not going to let you build right next to another Burger King. They're going to clear a space. They're going to restrict where you can build. Right? I mean, this happens all the time in many industries. This is not exclusive to anyone. And you know, in insurance, it's exactly, big companies going to clear space and protect their franchise-supported agents or agencies, whether they're their own shop or franchise shop, right? They'll protect that. And the last who get the leftover spaces are maybe these independents, and they have to pick up what they can. So this is not something that is unique to theater, stuff, things at all. So this thing, now, at the very end of the article, they're also saying that this isn't necessarily a practice that impacts independence. There's also a practice that impacts the chains. So in other words, Cinemark can clear an area so that AMC can't bring in movies. So this isn't just, do you see what I'm saying? This is a big boy versus big boy problem as well, or not problem, but practice. They're not singling out independence necessarily for territory exclusivity, geographic exclusivity, but they're also clearing each other out in certain ways as well.
Yeah, but it just has way more detriment to the independents than it does to them three.
So let me ask you, getting back to our friend Mickey, who's lost millions of dollars, should he have understood the structure of the industry better before he did this? I mean, this is not a new practice. This has been happening for decades and decades and decades. This is a custom practice that it seems like everybody in the industry except for him knows about. So where's his argument? Who's crying tears for him today?
I don't think the fact he didn't know it, he was trying to create that, going after a different segment of the market, like had been mentioned, talking about going after a different segment. But, this clearance, when they pulled it on him, basically they didn't care what market he was going to, they just didn't want him there.
That's true. They define the market as a geographic space and not necessarily a different consumer market segment.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a super good point.
Could it be considered anti-competitive just in its own nature? Like, yes, the big chains are targeting each other with it, but they have the capital, infrastructure, and funds to be able to withstand these blows against each other. But anyone that's smaller, like Mickey, is not going to be able to withstand it. And so it ends up just hurting the consumer because then you are only limited on your choices.
What do you think? Jimmy agrees. Yeah, I think it is a anti-competitive practice. Bridging off of last week, we talk about like Porter's 5 forces and like barriers to entry as one of these things. And it makes that industry less attractive for a newcomer to come into. But we do this all the time. If you're in business, you want to create as many barriers as possible to limit competition, don't you? Now, as a consumer, we don't say, yeah, that's great. And as a social entity, we're like, well, no, that's bad. But if you're in business, don't you want to create as many barriers to your competition as possible? I mean, if I'm in business, the fewer competitors I have is good. And the harder it is for other competitors to compete, it's really good. So, now, is this like collusion? Is this like, where the big companies get together and say, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to exclude, new entrants coming in? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But it hasn't been shown in like the legal system. There hasn't been a regulatory approach to prohibit it, is what I'm thinking, right? Something like that. So it's a really interesting, so the point of the article is just to talk a little bit about kind of like these power dynamics. Is it fair? I don't know. Should Mickey have known better? I don't know, probably. Does it hurt the consumer? Probably. Maybe. Now, I will say this. If you're Mickey in that case, then, finding a different way to compete is one of the keys here. Being creative and finding that niche approach to their market, to their specific market segment, is probably how he has to play. You have to play the game. But you have to also play by the rules of the game, whatever industry you're in, like it or not. And until you're one of the big chains, your relative power, until you have that power, will the distributors listen to you? Will the producers listen to you? Will you have bargaining power between, in this direction? Because that's kind of, their fight really isn't with chains. Their fight is probably more so with distributors than anybody, right? Because those are the ones who are kind of creating these rules. If the distributors wanted to avoid the clearance or not build the clearance into the contracts they have with chains, they could. right? I mean, presumably that's what's happening in that power dynamic. So anyways, real interesting. I hope you guys enjoy doing some of these reflections. It helps apply some of the material we're talking about a little bit. I enjoy reading them. Any questions? So this week we're going to talk about Lululemon. Yeah, for sure.
I have a question about, with this scenario in particular, who is like the supplier power and who's the buyer power? Because when I was looking at it, I was trying to figure out whether the theaters the chains had high buyer power because of the fact that they're buying the movie and they're not buying it, but like they're taking the product from the movie and putting it out, and they just have a lot of power in that scenario.
I think they do. And the term buyer and seller, I think you have to be liberal in how you use those. So it may not be they're purchasing the movie per se like a buyer would, but they're the next person, they're the next intermediary in the chain.
Gotcha.
It's the amount of power in that relationship. And again, oftentimes we view power and control kind of together. So if you can control the market, if you have enough market share, if you have enough influence in the consumer market, 'cause down here we have the consumers, if you have enough influence there, then you can control the channel. And we actually, that intermediary may also be known as a channel captain. A channel captain is the intermediary who kind of makes the channel work, runs the rules of the channel, those types of things. Walmart is often the channel captain if you think about their channel of distribution. They make the rules because they're large enough, they have enough power to do so. So would the producers and distributors be willing to go up against that power and violate or break that dynamic? Maybe different producers, and I don't even know, I don't know them well enough. There may be some production houses out there that view this differently. I suspect it's not. I suspect most of them are pretty tied into the system of chains that are out there. But like I could easily see if you had a small producer who does a lot of like indie movies and stuff like that, they might be more willing to work with independents. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the big huge production companies may be too locked into the power that goes here for it to really change much.
So they would have high buyer power?
Yeah, I mean that is in essence what it would be.
And then the relationships they form with the producers kind of dwindles down a little bit of the producer's supplier power.
Yeah,
in a way.
Right. The supplier in this case is here, and again, loosely using this term buyer because they're the next in the chain towards the end user. That's exactly right. If they control the market, then the producers have to subsequently kind of and think about it. There aren't that many production companies. I mean, there are only a handful of companies that actually produce and distribute movies, whereas again, the power tends to lie there. Now, I don't know how many new movies come out a year, like blockbusters or ones you'd see at the movie theaters. Maybe how many do you think? I have no idea. 20, 30? I don't know.
Well, I have a question. So if the theaters are main buyers and that would be the independent people, their main enemy are the chains and not the distributors, right?
I'm sorry, I don't
if because you said the independent movie theater owners, their main quarrels with the distributors.
I think so. Yeah. So what's happening? What's making this happen is a contract between the two parties, and in that contract, there's clearance language.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So two parties in a contract, they both have to agree to the terms, and so all I'm saying is if the power dynamic was shifted, then they could eliminate. The producers might be able to eliminate that clearance language.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating just play in reality because it happens, and we can talk about the ethical merits of it because there's a whole lot of that makes you feel kind of queasy inside, probably. I mean, it isn't a pretty practice, but it is knowing the industry well enough, the structure and the practices in the industry well enough, and you're getting into the game to know how it's played. And so, I mean, it's written. Anyways, all right, cool. Good. I'm glad. So yeah, this week we're talking about. Anybody familiar with the term dupes? Probably most of you, many of you. A dupe product. Yeah, a lot of folks. So this is a very new thing. It's been kind of coming out in popular press for about 5 years now, but it's really something strategically that is new. So that's kind of one of the things we're looking at this next week with Lululemon and their issue with dupes. So I'm excited to see what you guys think about that. But tonight we'll talk a little bit about resources. And let me clear off. Bear with me a second or two as I drop some of this off. Clear this. So the seminal article that I was talking about, and again, so one of the things is sometimes I drop in Moodle some articles. Most of them, a lot of them are the popular press type things that kind of play out stuff we're talking about. Some of them, though, are a little bit more like academic stuff, a little harder to read, a little, kind of thicker. And one of those, though, was by Jay Barney in 1991, and it's really this resource-based theory article, and one of the pieces in it deals with one of the figures in this article deals with this idea of having an external analysis or view, and it's actually an environmental kind of scam or view of how businesses work or how businesses function in markets. And this is where if we're going to drop this or think about the SWOT analysis, this is where we think about the opportunities and threats that happen. So this is a very external view. If you're kind of basing your business and kind of doing the things that you're doing based on that, then that's fine. But we always add to this the other side of it where we have strengths and weaknesses. And these are kind of two very different things, since this is really the internal view or analysis of what's going on. And the reason why this was important is the focus that really kind of happened moving forward, and the whole point of the article was that opportunities and threats exist for everybody in an industry or in an industry. All the companies in an industry are exposed to opportunities and threats, and not equally, but very much so. However, strengths and weaknesses vary by company. So the strengths and weaknesses of one company are vastly different than the strengths and weaknesses of another company. So if the things that happen outside the firm are sort of universal, if they're happening to everybody all at the same time, then how do firms gain competitive advantages? Not here, but here. And so the basis of this kind of concept of competition is that we compete through how we differentiate ourselves as a firm, and it's specifically based on what is termed resources that the company has, which lend themselves primarily to strengths, but are developed and are acquired, and the degree to which you build resources that are different from your competitors is the degree to which you can differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Again, opportunities and threats, they happen to everybody, but your ability to react to them depends on this box. And so instead of focusing on this, focus on this. It's kind of a simple concept, right? It's not like earth-shattering, but it really forced business strategists to kind of rethink this whole idea of how we differentiate ourselves from each other. And I mean, there was a period of time where people just kind of assumed, well, if you're in an industry, all the firms more or less act the same way. They build their business models are more or less identical in each of the businesses that are in an industry, and they don't deviate that much. And what this said is, no. What really happens is firms, everything that allows a firm to compete and compete well and gain market share and do all that stuff is based on how their differences are defined. And so that's why we use this term resources. And this term resources is going to be a broad term. It's used in a lot of different ways, but it has some specific applications that we'll walk through. So if in Moodle you have access to this. It's a fantastic piece. That's definitely worth looking. It's a little thick though, so whatever. But let's spend a little time just talking about resources and just kind of the way these things are. We'll pull this material up. Bear with me a second. Let's do this and that. This and that. It's all going to come down one day. It's going to like all fall down and be a big old mess. Okay, so let's just begin a little bit with this idea of something called strategic fit. When we take these two sides of things, opportunities in the marketplace, and what could the market want, what do they want, and what do we do particularly well? And this is like a matching game. If the customers and the market want the product delivered quickly to the house, they ordered it today, they want it this afternoon, and we have the ability to process an order, get it on a truck, and get it over to your house this afternoon, if we have that ability, then we can match that strength with something that the market wants, right? And this flexibility, this nimbleness, this ability to react to the market and match what the market wants suggests that there's a good positive fit, if you will, between that. And as you can imagine, if we can do that and our competitors can't, then we gain a competitive advantage, right? We leverage that skill we have in order to match something in the marketplace that's desired. So internal strengths then, when matched with opportunities that the market offers itself, is what we're trying to go for and where we're thinking. Now, when we say market, though, remember the term market orientation. We won't forget that. That's been around for a while. includes a view of the customer and simultaneously a view of competition. So it could be something that the competitors are doing, like a weakness of theirs is a strength of ours. That's where a strategic fit might happen, but oftentimes it's in the marketplace itself, from the consumer standpoint. The textbook provides a sort of an image like this where we have the resource-based perspective linked to market orientation, right? And the linking of these two things is really kind of where the theory pulls everything together. If we are able to connect a resource to something that's happening in that market, because we're looking at the market through a market orientation lens, then we can contribute to or create some type of competitive advantage. And that's kind of the extent of it. That's how we think of that. So in that early literature, that early work, we got this idea of a resource-based theory of the firm, and then further it was evolved into something called resource advantage theory. Same kind of concepts, but when we stretch into resource advantage theory, the notion is that when we take a company, we can sort of form it around or define it as a set or bundle of skills or abilities. So it's not that a company's employees would be in there, their processes would be in there, their ability to do things are in there. Those are all skills and things that they do. And when you put them all together, it creates a bundle or a set of these resources. So it's like you got Nike and you have Adidas, they compete against each other. They both have designers, they both have production facilities, they both have distribution channels. They've done this independently of each other. They both have financial models. They both operate and do a whole bunch of different activities. But some of their strengths are better. Adidas does some things better perhaps than Nike does, and Nike does something better than maybe Adidas does, right? And so this bundle then comes together to form their identity, kind of create who they are. And so the focus is, well, what's a resource? And kind of like, what are the skills that are important? What are the abilities that are ultimately important that we bundle together to distinguish ourselves from others? And the text kind of outlines a bunch. We're going to talk about a bunch, like what a resource is, why we have them, and things like that. But they could be like, how well do we brand ourselves? How strong are our relationships with suppliers or with distributors? You can imagine in our example before, if you are a movie producer and you have a really, really strong relationship with one of the chain theaters, then you're going to have a front row seat and get your movies into those chain theaters, right? But what if you don't? What if you don't have that resource, that relational resource, in other words? Then you're at a big disadvantage, right? You're at an enormous disadvantage, and that would be kind of a bad thing. Okay, so those are kind of things that we want to think about. A term that is worth remembering, and I want to just kind of emphasize a few times, is something called an isolating mechanism. So an isolating mechanism is a strength, a resource, an ability that you have that insulates you from competition, that protects you, and may lead to an anti-competitive environment. So, in other words, this contract that a chain AMC has with producers for a clearance, that is an isolating mechanism. That's something that they have at their disposal that shields them from competition. Does that make sense? Right. So if you have like an exclusive deal with one of your suppliers, that would be an example of that. What if you have a special patent that you put out and it protects some intellectual property you have that others want, and they can't have that because you have the patent to it and you're not going to release it. That's an isolating mechanism. It protects you, right? So that's a special type of resource. It's one that you want to be able to create. The more of these, or you don't need a lot, but if you had one or two of these, then it's what you build your base business model off of, and it really kind of sets you apart from everybody else. You can leverage those extremely well. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 different things as we kind of go through tonight. We're going to kind of just talk about, at least initially, what the resource-based view of the firm is. We'll spend a few more moments just kind of talking about what a resource is, how we define it, how we identify what they are. Then we'll spend a little bit of time on dynamic capabilities, marketing assets, and dynamic marketing capabilities. They kind of go together, and we'll just spend a moment or two thinking about what they are in context to resources. And then finally, the text provides us a nice little 2x2 evaluation portfolio, or evaluation for resource portfolios. So we'll say a few words about that. Okay? Again, this is an interesting chapter, I guess. 20 years ago, we wouldn't be doing this in marketing. This wouldn't be, it'd be purely like a management strategy type of a thing. But this is the application of how a firm can differentiate itself in the marketplace. This is how consumers will look at 2 different companies, Adidas and Nike, and they'll say, hey, they're different. They're not the same. One has elements and aspects of it that are better than the other, and vice versa. And that's based on their resources and the things that they do with them. Okay, so again, RBV extends into this thing called resource advantage theory. We say that firms are a collection or a bundle of resources. That's how we kind of think of them. And firms within the same industry compete on those differences, right? Some bundles, though, perform better than others. And this is kind of that where the rubber meets the road. If you, for instance, are an industry that requires a lot of research and development, and your competitors' R&D teams do better than yours, then you won't compete as well in the marketplace. You won't. If you're in an industry where your brand name and the brand equity is super important, and your branding team isn't as strong, then your competitors will gain market share. There'll be a better product out there, right? So some bundles absolutely perform better than others, and it's a matter of our job to identify what resources we have, which ones we need to build up, and which ones our competitors have as well. So again, remember those strengths and weaknesses in the SWOT space. SWOT model will kind of help us there. Effectively, our key resources that absolutely define us will be those isolating mechanisms that we just sort of introduced, that concept. Okay, so what's a resource and where do we find them? That's kind of the next question that we need to ask or we need to think about. Okay, everybody on board? We're cool? All right, let me know if I'm going too quickly or too slowly. We'll try to move right along. So the framework for this, and again, Barney outlined some of this, and it's been adapted over the years a few different times. Originally, it was called VRIN. It's slightly changed to add an O and collapse a couple things there. So here's the deal. How do you know if you have a resource that could ultimately be an isolating mechanism? Number one, it has to be something that creates value for the customer or something that lowers costs for you. And it has to be something that comes at some form of a cost, or it can't be free. It can't be freely obtained. Okay, so imagine, this is an example I've used before. Imagine you own a coffee shop and you have a super duper espresso coffee making machine that you imported from Italy that makes the absolute best espresso around, right? It's whatever the mechanisms are inside are fantastic, and you can't really, I mean, it's just the customers love the product that comes out of that. It's really, really a great thing. That'd be something that has value to the customers. It helps you do your business, and it's something that you acquired. It's an asset. It's like a machine. All right, so that's one. Number two, it has to be something that's rare. Okay, this resource that you have has to be rare. So in other words, it can't be something that all your competitors also have. Does that make sense? So in other words, if you have a superpower and so does everybody else, how good is your superpower? Doesn't really matter, right? If everybody else has it, doesn't set you apart. So it can't be something that your competitors have. It has to be rare, exclusive. So this is a very special Italian-made espresso machine that we bought in Florence, and it was specially crafted. There's no others like it. It was designed just for us. We brought it over here, and now we're using it. Our competitors can't go out and buy their version of it, right? Okay, so it has to be rare. The third element here, and these aren't in any particular order, they all have to be met. There's actually a couple concepts here. The original had I and N as two separate things. They're kind of similar, so they're sort of merged. The I stands for imperfectly imitable, which simply means it can't be copied exactly. So our competitors may also have espresso machines, but they don't do exactly what ours does, right? It can't replicate the product that we're producing. It comes close, but it's not the same. So they have their own machines, but again, the end result doesn't produce the product that the customers want, which we are offering. And also, it's non-substitutable. So I can't, in other words, take a tea-making machine and make coffee out of it, I can't take another resource I have and try to substitute it for the resource that I'm lacking. It's basically the idea. So the I and the N are pretty close in conceptually. Can't copy it, can't substitute. The competitors can't copy it, and they can't substitute another resource for it. That's the idea of that. And then the O, which was again added later after a lot of this original work was done, it means that the structure of the business is set up or organized in such a way to capitalize and leverage the usefulness of that machine. So in other words, we have this coffee machine, this espresso maker. It's unique, it's rare, our competitors don't have it. They don't really have anything that can produce the product that we're doing. But we also know how to operate it. We have the correct supplies to be able to make it work. We have the marketing budget to let our customers know that we have this machine, to bring them in. So we're building awareness for it. We have, if it were to break, we have the ability to fix it. So in other words, we're organized in a structural way to leverage that resource to make it to give us an advantage as a result of it. All right, we have the internal ability to leverage that resource. Okay, so these are four things. The barrier is extremely high. So very few firms have a resource that matches all four of these criteria. They don't have a lot of them. You might have one. You might have two. You're not going to have a lot of resources that meet all four of these criteria. And the challenge, sometimes I'll do this. We'll talk about this with students like seniors who are in a capstone will talk about their resume. And think about your resume, your vita, your resume, and look at the things that are on it. And just go through them and like say, well, look, I got a college degree, I have a bachelor's degree. Does it have value? Yeah, of course it does. It cost me a lot of money and time and effort, and it also would produce value for my employer because I've achieved that. I've gained some experience. My employer would then benefit value-wise from that. Is it rare? Well, do other people who are in your job position also have bachelor's degrees? Probably. Oh, so it's, okay, so I have to check that off the list. That's not, it's on my resume, but it's not something that sets me apart. It's not an isolating mechanism. Sorry. Okay, well, go down here. I have these work experiences. Work experiences are on your resume. They add value, yes. I have this experience, therefore I'm a better employee. Are they rare? Well, other people have work experiences. I have to define how mine are different from everybody else's, so maybe they're rare. If you did a real unusual had a real unusual one on there. Could they be replicated or copied by if another candidate had those? Maybe, and then I don't know how organization works, that'd be a hard one to do. All right, you can kind of go through the list though. I mean, the barrier for an isolating mechanism is really high. It's really hard to obtain. But trust me, if you have one, like you spent a year in a whole nother market, maybe overseas or something, you learned the language, you did business and commerce, you did this in this whole other environment, it's unique, nobody else has ever done it before, you created a nonprofit, you did something just amazing that nobody's ever done before. Okay, well then now you're starting to get into something that you can use to say, this is why I'm different from everybody else. And this is how it works in the marketplace. You look at the shelf and it's populated by products, and the consumer's asking, well, what makes this one different from this one? And if they can't say what that difference is, then you're a commodity, basically, right? And now you're just competing on price and hoping they buy your product. So this is a high bar to set, but these are the rules. This is what creates an isolating mechanism. There are all kinds of resources online if you want to look at examples of these things and get other feedback. You may have, from another class, seen this model before, so this may be something that's not new for you at all. And there's actually, again, in Moodle, there's a little bit more description that has this image. And there's also a little paper that talks about the VRIO model and application of it in the wine industry. So again, if you want to learn a little bit more, there's some materials that are available to you in Moodle. But so where do these come from though? So so this defines what a resource is, right? You have to have these 4 criteria for a resource to be leverageable to be a sustainable competitive advantage. So where do these, where do you find resources? This is a big one. And then also in the text, there'll be an area that talks about marketing assets, and they list what these resources might be from a marketing perspective. But they can come from lots of places in the organization. They can come from a production space, like if you have a production process that's really efficient, better than anybody else's. You may have financial assets that are unlike anybody else's as well. They could come from HR or employees. It could be relationships you have with suppliers. These are like a resource can come from lots and lots of different places, but they have to meet those 4 criteria pieces. The original literature identified, there's a bunch up here, I get that. The original literature identified 6 different kind of key areas where you often find resources, one of which is simply called physical. One of the great examples of this might be if you have a retail location that's specifically on like a corner of two streets and there's lots of traffic there. That location can't be duplicated by anybody else. It's there. There may be other areas, but maybe not one that's quite as great as this one. That you could use that as a resource, right, to create a competitive advantage because of location. Boeing, for years and years, once had the largest covered indoor production facility in the world, Boeing, the airline company. And by virtue of that, they were able to design and build planes in a certain way because they had so much space that was a little bit different from a lot of their competitors, and they were more efficient for a period of time as a result of that. That facility created an opportunity for them to gain a competitive advantage. So physical could be one of the things that we look at. Financial, as I mentioned, so it may be the case if you have very low debt, if your ratios are very positive for you, this could be something that lends an advantage that you have that perhaps your competitors don't have. If you're a subsidiary of a company, of a bigger company, and your parent company is able to provide you some greater access to capital, that might be an advantage that you have that perhaps your competitors don't have. Something like that. Legal is a big area, kind of the legal space with contracts. No doubt Nike gained an enormous competitive advantage when they signed Michael Jordan to an endorsement contract in the 80s, well around 84, 85, I can't remember the exact year, but they were one of the first companies to use a sports endorser the way they did. And they were kind of a pioneer in some aspects of doing that. Wheaties, the cereal, anybody eat Wheaties? Very first company to use a celebrity sports endorser on their boxes, right? That's old-time marketing, old school. So, but that contract that they signed with Michael Jordan at that point in time created a competitive advantage for them that others later copied, right? I mean, it wasn't a long-lived one, but it certainly was a big one. It was unique. There was only one Michael Jordan. The timing was right and all of that. So trademarks, patents, those all can, again, like I say, lead you to isolating mechanisms that protect you, create a competitive advantage for you. Three others, organizational resources. So organizational resources can be things that deal with the people in the organization, the HR function, the structure, the hierarchical structure, maybe, but also branding. And some of like the essence of who the firm is, what the firm stands for, its purpose, its image. Those intangible types of things tend to fall into this specific area. Two others, informational, is kind of an important one, especially today, because it deals with acquiring and managing and understanding information or data. So we gather a lot of data, and some companies are really good at bringing data in but not doing anything with it, or not knowing what to do with it, or not storing it well, or not being able to manage data particularly well. But the companies that do that well can truly set themselves apart and leverage that to an advantage. And then finally, this last one deals with relational. And specifically, we look at relationships oftentimes between firms and your ability to create long-term relationships with suppliers and distributors and the actors who you do business with. Again, if you can create a relationship with a supplier and create such a strong one where your competitors can no longer use that supplier, then you're in essence blocking them out of the market, right? Now look, if I create a product, like I'm creating, I don't know what it is, but some type of product, and there's a key ingredient that I need, and I go to the supplier and we form a long-term agreement, they're gonna supply me, we're gonna buy from them, and in that agreement, they agree not to supply my competitors. So this is an exclusive agreement, right? Exclusivity. Then I have, in essence, blocked my competitors from that key supplier. It's no different from what AMC is doing to the independent movies. No difference there. It's the exact same thing. You know, where it's a competitive strategy. It's something that we do. We could even go so far as to purchase or have a financial interest in that supplier. We could vertically integrate and purchase that company, and then we could completely control the supply. Right? There's nothing illegal, nothing wrong with that. We can do that for the most part, as long as it's there.
Apple did that with the Sapphire Edge.
Exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. That's the deal that they did. So, yeah, it's a little. It's yeah. Does it limit competition? Yeah, but again, if you're in a competitive environment, the fewer competitors you have, better for you, right? I mean, generally speaking. Okay, so that kind of the idea of a resource, that resource-based view of the firm. That's kind of where we're moving away from now. Which brings us into these next three kind of things, and this is heavily text-driven. If you're looking at the text, or if you see this is really kind of drawn from their material quite a bit. And the text will talk about three different things. We'll look at them briefly, one at a time. Dynamic marketing capabilities, and marketing assets. We'll look at all three of those here in succession. Cool? All right, dynamic marketing capabilities. Defined, again, the capacity of an organization to purposefully create, extend, or modify its resource base. So remember, resources are these skills and assets we have. We put them together to form a bundle that defines kind of who we are. The ability to change those, to update those, and is important. I've mentioned this a few times because I don't have a lot of stories, I guess, to tell. But Harley Davidson, a number of years ago, they signed an agreement with and became partners with a company that created electric bicycles. A bicycle with a motor with a battery pack on it. And then that evolved into a relationship with them where they eventually bought the company, which led to and kind of laid the groundwork for their electric motorcycle, Harley's electric motorcycle, the Livewire. And the story, kind of the application of the story is that before this, so they're looking at the big picture, right? They're like, well, look, electric vehicles are pretty, kind of a big thing. They're becoming a bigger thing, and we should have some R&D in this. Problem is, we don't have the people, we don't have the labs, we don't have the facilities to really do, and we don't really know battery-powered or electric-powered technologies particularly well. We've been making motorcycles for well over 100 years. We understand how motorcycles should work and do work and all of that. But this new technology is not in our skill base. So, resource depleted. We don't have this resource. We need to go acquire this resource. We could build up a lab internally. We could create our own space here in Milwaukee, and we could do something. But our better answer right now is to go find people who already have this skill, partner with them, and acquire that resource that way, right? Because this is the future. We see part of the future of our business in electric vehicles. And so we are resource weak. That's a weakness we have. So we're going to acquire it. So this whole idea of being dynamic, to be able to change, be able to see what's happening, and there are three different observant capacity, adaptive, and innovative capabilities, suggests this idea that your firm is able to manage resource change and adapt your resources as needed, if that makes sense. That's kind of a key skill of moving along and evolving with the marketplace. So that's one aspect. Second aspect, again, kind of in this middle space, is this concept of marketing capabilities. And if you will, this is, again, pushing the marketing side of resource-based theory of the firm. Your ability or your functional processes or ability to do marketing. At the end of the day, I know in this class we talk a lot about, like the strategy and kind of why we're doing these things and how they fit into the mission and the purpose and growth strategies. But at the end of the day, somebody has to put products on the shelf. Somebody has to create the package. Somebody has to do the pricing changes. Somebody has to create the ad, right? We're not talking a lot about the functional stuff in this class. We're doing functional work. You have to do it well. You have to do it effectively. It has to be deployed well so the strategy will work. So think about this area of kind of your assets. Do you do these things well? Like, if you do these things well, that can in and of itself be a resource for you. Maybe we really do merchandising really well. That's a marketing function. That's something we do when we design a shelf, when we design a display in the store. The lighting is right, the scheme is correct. We do it really well. So doing marketing, if you do it well and effectively, could be part of your resource base, right? And then finally, the authors again kind of list out, all right, well, from a marketing perspective, what are some of the marketing capabilities that exist? And I love this list because these are all things that could eventually be, you could be really good at them. They're skills, they're things that we do. How well do we do them? Do we do them well enough for them to be an isolating mechanism? Could they be, in other words, a resource that gets turned into or creates a competitive advantage for us? And there's a bunches here, right? There are all kinds of things here. Relationships with customers, our brand, kind of, do we create superior products? If we're consistently creating products that are just simply better than our competitors, we'll have a competitive advantage. I mean, a lot of people would say Apple products are pretty good functionally. I mean, they don't break a lot. The systems seem to work pretty well. They're incredibly user-friendly. Right? I mean, I don't know. I know the landscape's changed a lot, but when you buy an Apple, it's just the product in a box. You don't get a manual. You don't need a manual. If you can't pick it up and just start using it, then their design is flawed in their minds. Right? It shouldn't be complicated. It should be incredibly intuitive, and they do those things, I think, really well. That's like an advantage that's something that they do. But these other things happen too, and they're kind of formed in a marketing space. Supply chain we've talked about, security of supply, being able to kind of think about that. Alliances that you have, technologies and things, copyrights, patents, all those legal aspects. Kind of mentioned some of those already as well. So if you kind of want a list of like what would resources maybe look like from a marketing space, then this is a pretty good thing to kind of pick away at as well. Okay? Sound good so far? And we're gonna kind of settle on a little bit here. I don't know how we're doing on time. It's just 7:15. Good. Good, we've got lots of things. Again, drawn from the text a little bit, because this is some interesting, I think this is a valuable 2x2 matrix that sort of talks about this idea that we have resources, but we need to look at them in the context of our competitors and what is valued in the marketplace. Because remember, we've got this market orientation view. We could be really, really, really good at doing something, but if the market's not interested in that, or if that's not something that gains value in the marketplace, then it doesn't really help us, right? We could be really, really good at doing something, but if all of our competitors are also good at doing that same thing, again, it doesn't gain us a competitive advantage. And so this 2x2 matrix kind of takes and describes 4 different types of resources. And I think it's kind of an interesting way to think about this. So you can have a set of resources, and we call it a portfolio. I think that gets overused, but the grouping of resources could fall in a couple different categories here, right? And again, this matrix is, if we look at the axes, relative strength to our competitors. So we do it well. It maybe meets the VRINO framework, right? We do it well. It checks the 4 boxes that we called on earlier. That'd be really good. That would be a good thing if a resource did that. But also, is the resource something that the customers feel is valuable or worth having or worth doing? Let's again say, we said earlier, the company that can deliver a product in the afternoon, you made the order this morning. If the customer doesn't need it this afternoon, even though you can do it, that's great. But if the customer doesn't need it this afternoon, then it's not like you've gained anything by sending it this afternoon. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words, if that feature is not particularly important to the customer, even though you can do it, it's probably not something you're going to leverage in the marketplace as an advantage. And that's this kind of other dimension here, right? Importance of the resource in creating value to the customer. Okay, so the authors talk about, I don't know the origin of these groupings. I'm going to find out. But anyways, these 4 different categories, and I just kind of made a few notes on each one of them, looking at our superiority in the resource relative to our competition first. So in the upper right, that crown jewel is there. It's going to be an isolating mechanism. It's going to be a thing you have that nobody else is going to have, that the customers want, and that's probably going to be what you talk about in your advertising, in your media. It's probably going to be part of your company DNA. It's going to be why should somebody buy our product? It's probably because of the crown jewel we have, because of this resource that we have that we do better than anybody else and that you really want, right? That's probably going to be that focus. Now, on the same side, we are really good at doing some things, but again, if the customer doesn't need or want it, it's this black hole, term or concept, black hole resource. Maybe it's something that we invested a lot of money in the past, and for a period of time it gained us a competitive advantage, but for whatever reason today, the market has evolved, things have changed, and we no longer have this, the market no longer thinks that this thing is of value to us. Right, so that's kind of this black hole thing. It may be something that you hold on to, this resource that you feel we made a lot of business off of, leveraging this resource in the past. We invested a lot of money into it, and there's still a lot of money on our books. It's not depreciating, it's not a useless asset, whatever it is. And we feel like we've invested so much in it, we need to continue to try to leverage it. And that's probably a mistake, right? You got to kind of let those things go. That's why it's a black hole. It's like sucking in energy and not giving any energy out as a result of it. Okay, on the other side, so things that we do well compared to our competitors, crown jewels, black holes. On the other side, we have this Achilles heel concept. I love this one. I'm going to guess that an Achilles heel type of thing may be a resource that one of your competitors has. It may be one of their isolating mechanisms that you don't have. So in other words, we do these things well, but our competitors do this other thing well. We have that espresso maker, which is really, really great. They have a bubble tea maker that's really, really great that we can't, it's like they have that and we have this, and we kind of wish we had that, but we don't, and they're better at that than we are, and that's where they're sort of hanging their hat. That's where they're making hay, and they're getting the job done on that. So it's a resource that competitors hold, and again, we have an inferior sort of position on that, but it's something that customers want, right? So that's one of those deals that we need to avoid, maybe. If we think about the SWOT analysis, it's a weakness, it's a strength of our competitor, but a weakness of us. Look at opportunities in other places. The last box is kind of a boring one, in my opinion. Sleepers. Look, there may be skills and resources that you have that you're maybe not good at, but your customers don't really care about them that much. So, okay. Well, I mean, you're not going to invest in you're not going to invest in resources that have low importance with your customers. And the fact that we don't have a strong position isn't going to hurt us. It's not going to create us problems. It's not something that we're going to, if we were good at this, we'd be a black hole, and it wouldn't matter. You want to avoid it, or you want to limit your enthusiasm for it, curb your enthusiasm a little bit for it if you could. Right? So this is kind of a cool idea. Defining what a resource is, understanding where you're going to be where your strength is going to be, that you can leverage, and then kind of saying, well, what are my competitors doing? What are their strengths? What are their things they're doing well? And can we kind of think about what we have and where we would place it in this type of 2x2 matrix? Okay? All right. Do you have any questions? Do you have everything going okay? What's going on here? All right. Let's charge through a little bit more. How's that sound? Okay. No one's asleep yet, so that's good. All right. So let's kind of talk a little bit then for a few minutes about some application to this. We're real familiar with the SWOT concept. I don't love SWOT at all. And there's a couple reasons. One, I think it oversimplifies really complicated issues, which I guess a good model does. So maybe I shouldn't hate on it. But the bigger problem that I have with SWOT that I see is a lot of people, when they do a SWOT analysis, they see these 4 boxes and they describe, okay, this is probably a strength, this is a weakness, and it's real descriptive, but it's not real prescriptive. In other words, a good management model will describe a situation, it'll paint a picture of what's going on, but then it'll tell you what to do. It'll tell you what strategy you should do as a result of what you see. And 99% of the time, people do SWOT analyses, they describe the situation, but then they don't do anything else with it. It's just, well, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really challenged a lot of times when you need to make a decision based on the information. You need to have some strategy that pulls you away. So the context of this is that when we talk about resource-based theory of the firm, we're really talking about your strengths, right? What are your strengths? and they fall into this one quadrant here. Now, you could easily say weaknesses might be those sleepers or the black holes that you have. And when we say weaknesses, it's weak in comparison to your competitors, right? That's is a comparative model. This is a comparative model always. Your strength is your strength compared to your competitors, not what you think about yourselves. It's what you think about yourselves in context to them, right? So that's what it is. And again, we go back to Barney, 1991. He based the whole theory off of this idea of the internal components of this model, right? So wrapping back around to this is not awful because we started here to begin with. We started the class with this piece. So I'm cool doing that. But and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can kind of get, you've done SWOT analyses enough to kind of know what those quadrants are all about. But it comes down to this. I love this kind of little discussion because depending on your relative strengths and these changes, these external elements, there are things that we can do. And there's 4 different strategies. And I think I agree with most of them in terms of what you should do next after you do your basic SWOT description. And again, focused on resources. So leveraging resources to form competitive advantages, taking away weaknesses, and then deploying these resources to form some type of a strategy. So we take a look at this sort of box. We have at the top, or on the left-hand side, we have the internal elements that are going on. Yep, we certainly want to try to minimize our weaknesses, convert them to strengths. Okay, that's great. That's fine. And then we have on the right external things. We want to turn threats into opportunities. Okay, that's fine. That's kind of what we want to do. And the strategies though kind of fall like this. If you have a crown jewel, if there's something you do particularly well and the market opportunity exists, then you should aggressively pursue it. Right? You should take action and steps that will push you to maximize the benefit that you're receiving. If I have that espresso machine and all of a sudden there's a surge in customers who want European-style espresso, then now's the time to push my marketing budgets to grow, right? That's when I want to be super aggressive in that particular space. So strengths and opportunities. Remember, I had this concept of strategic fit. This is it. It's a strategic fit. When you have a strength and there's an opportunity, then the stars align. You're ready to go. It is probably potentially the best scenario. We want to expand. We want to grow. Right? We want to develop new products. We want to push. We want to try to reshape the competitive landscape to the best of our ability to do that in that scenario, if that makes sense. Challengingly, if we have certain resources and strengths, but there are threats to our industry, then one of the strategies is to diversify and shift your strengths and resources to other spaces. So in other words, look, there are pitfalls that we're about to head into in our business model, in the industry, in the environment that we're in. So now I need to find new ways to utilize our resources. I don't know if it's a great example, but the example that I have is Altria, which is a holding company primarily for tobacco-based companies. I created this a few years ago, so I hope it's up to date. It may not be fully, but you get the idea. Imagine you're a holding company or you're a company that deals in the tobacco industry in the United States. This industry is challenged with regulatory issues, with cultural perceptual issues, with all kinds of things. However, if you're a big player and you have big pockets and you've been making money for a lot of years, and you're able to deploy those resources into other areas or other things like create the Philip Morris Capital Corporation to invest in or to utilize your resources, whether they're plants or factories or production lines, or whether it's relationships you have with distributors, right? Then you can. So in other words, redirect your assets away from the threats into other areas through diversification, right? If that makes sense, right? Find other ways to do business leveraging the assets that you have. That's what we do when we diversify, right? So you're sort of avoiding the threat, but you're still utilizing your resources, right? That's what's meant by this concept here, okay? A fourth strategy is going to be a deal where we recognize that in the industry that we're in, there are, we're weak, or we don't have we're not resource rich, I guess, is what it is. So we need to right the ship. We need to get our financial house in order, our operations. We need to redevelop. We need to refocus. Sometimes when people do a turnaround strategy, they divest a lot. So sometimes companies get really big and they get overwhelmed and they get diluted and they lose their focus. And so one of the best turnaround strategies is to divulge yourself, just divest in all of these things and get to the core of what you do well and only do that one thing. So the idea here is to right the ship before moving forward, and then you can, once you focus yourself better on what you should be doing and where your strengths need to be built, then you can move forward and take advantage of opportunities. The final strategy, the final idea here is to defend market position and or retreat. If you're overwhelmed, if there are too many things going on that are difficult, then we have to deal with a whole another set of issues. Imagine your Radio Shack. How did Radio Shack fail? Yeah, remember Radio Shack? Is that a brand anybody would be familiar with? Years ago? Radio Shack was fantastic. You could go and they had all the RC toys as a kid. I mean, it was like really a cool place. Kind of lost its focus, kind of missed the idea of what the market was doing in technology and electronics. But anyways, that happens. And, if they have resources, how do you pivot those? Sears and Roebuck really tried hard. As a retail outlet, as a retailer, they faltered greatly. And the only thing that saved them in the last probably 20 years is their real estate business. They owned a lot of real estate. Sears owned a lot of real estate. And they also had like Die Hard and some other companies. They were diversified and they sold those off. They really screwed things up from a retail perspective, but they owned a lot of property. They became a real estate company. They also had a financial company as well with credit cards. That diversification saved them for a long time, but eventually they were so bad at what they did that it just kind of killed them off. So this is sad, right? This is kind of a thing. But if you don't have resources, so if you don't have those strengths, if you don't have the isolating mechanisms that can be matched strategically with what the market wants, then this is what's going to happen eventually, right? You're going to go out of business, and you're not going to be able to pull yourself back out. Okay, so So I hope, we've gone through some of this material. Maybe this is a little bit of a different, take. I hope you've seen some things maybe a little bit differently. The next stage of the project, let me pull this up and take a little bit of a look, and you can bear with me just a second. Project. I have not put stage 2, anything on stage 2 yet. I don't know if I can, wow. Here, why don't I do this? This will be better. Stage 2, stage 4, stage 2. Okay. So, and before we go, we'll finish a little early. Before we go, I'll certainly pull together or hand back this. I made comments, so I know this is old school, but I find Moodle really hard for me to annotate responses. Somebody submits something, and for me to add comments and stuff like that, I find it really hard to do, as opposed to just printing it out and writing on it. So I'm kind of old school that way. So I'm going to give you this with comments and my thoughts and kind of where we are with that. So stage 1, again, you know by now, it's a industry level, product category level view of the competitors, the industry, and the general makeup of the consumer, the market, for whatever product category you chose. Step number 2 asks you to adopt a company, which I think you've all done for the most part. Adopt a company or a firm that you can then that could play in the space, or could be a player, or is already in that product market, industry category, product category, and do an internal analysis of that company, its strengths, its weaknesses. So things that we want to look at, again, off of tonight's conversation, what do they do well? What are their distinctive capabilities? In other words, what sets them apart from others? Like, why should somebody buy from your company as opposed to others? Or what elements do they offer that are strategically better or different than their competitors? So think about that. Have that be something that you talk about. In addition, what we need to know, and this is really important, we need to know what products and services they offer now. Like, what does their product portfolio look like? Like, what do they offer? What are their products in? Where do they currently do business? And all of that. And the reason why that's important is because you're going to come up with a new product that your company could offer in the industry that you've chosen. So one of the things we need to know, though, is where that new product will fit into their portfolio. Does that make sense? I mean, if you choose a product that has nothing to do with anything that they already do, it's going to be a real hard sell. I mean, you got to think about, like, what does the company do now that will suggest that they could do this product that you're going to offer, and where would that product fall in their array or product chart? So one of the things that you can do is create a chart of their products and services, and you can kind of lay it out like a product line. It's just a product chart. You can, like, a product lines, product mix chart, something like that, and that's really something critical to be able to do. I'm going to make sure I'm getting everything here. Perform internal analysis, identify key resources, analyze their current product portfolio as it relates to the business model. How about this? If you should be able to get enough information from the company, hopefully, you might be able to identify, like, some of where they want to go, their goals, their purposes. You may find information that suggests what their growth strategies are going to be moving forward. Like, Usually a company will signal how it's going to grow. Will it build new stores? Will it create new products? Will it bring products to new markets? Those types of things are good to think about and kind of know about. You can build that in. If you have access to and understand the financial performance of the firm, that's great, especially relative to competition, like how much market share it has compared to other firms. Some of that data and information is difficult to obtain, especially if you are dealing with a privately held company. You may be able to have some of this information, so you may have some of this information from your industry analysis already, and that's okay. That would be good. Okay, once you choose a product, which you have not done yet, you'll need to demonstrate how your new product will enhance your current business portfolio in one or more of these aspects. So we need to know this information, like what the company's all about, and before we choose the product.
Question?
Stage 2. Yes, sir.
So in this stage 2, should we already decide for a product we want to develop? So this last part is what?
Yeah, it's once you choose the product, which you have not done yet.
So it's not part of part 2.
No.
It's just there for being there.
It's thinking ahead. You're thinking ahead, like in stage 3, you're going to design a product. In order to design the product, you should know what this company does, like where its strengths are, what it can do, and you know what I'm saying?
Where the product falls into?
Yeah, and where the product falls into. You know, now, pragmatically, I fully understand that you and your groups are already thinking about a product. You know, you already probably have in your mind what product you could offer. And this should affirm that thinking, whatever, because, all right, let's say you're already thinking about a product, and then you do this analysis of the company, and then you realize, whoa, this company can never do this product we're talking about. It doesn't make any sense. Or, most likely, you're going to come away with it saying, oh yeah, this product makes total sense for this company to offer. In stage 3, we're going to do this product because they have the resources to do it, fits into their product, mix. It's all there. You know what I'm saying? And on our last class together, you'll present your product idea. And just imagine that you're presenting your product idea to the C-suite of your company. All right? Just think of it like you're up there. I think our company should do this. We should introduce this new product. And you need to justify to the CEO and the board of directors why this product makes sense for your company. That makes right? You got to convince them. They need to agree with you in order to get permission to move forward with your product idea. If you go to them and you can't convince them why your product makes sense for your company, then you'll be thrown out of the room, right? Your CEO is not going to put up with that. You got to know the company well enough to know what makes sense for their product portfolio. So that's what this step kind of helps us do. This step helps us give us the confidence to know that when we make that presentation, the board of directors is, oh yeah, this makes total sense. We should have been doing this years ago. I love this new product idea because it's going to create new revenue. It's going to complement these other products that we have. We have the resources to do it, and things like that. That's a great question. Does that help a little bit? Yeah. Yeah. What other questions do you have? This should be an easy one, right? This should be pretty straightforward, right? You guys have worked together in a group long enough. Have you done your peer evaluations yet? Sent that email out? I don't know if you saw it in Moodle. Do you guys get the emails when they go out from Moodle to Moodle announcements? Okay, good. I never know I rarely know if you get them or not. So please feel free to do those. And we'll do a few more throughout the term. I think it's a good learning process for everybody. It doesn't change or shift grades much ever. Sometimes it does. What it also does, though, is if there's a group that's not functioning well, it helps us address issues right away. And it happens every once in a while where we'll have a group that just isn't working, and we just need to kind of figure things out, and the sooner we do that, the better. So get that done.
Is there a due date for that?
No, there's not. There's not a due date for it. If I see that there are a bunch missing, I might send another email out reminding, that's all. Yeah, it's not mission critical or anything like that. Just feel free to get that done. All right, well, cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I feel bad. This is 2 weeks in a row.
Don't feel bad. Do you know it?
I'm
Feel great.
You're not doing much work. Yes, sir.
So I was looking at the main page, and it says content deliverable schedule. And I noticed that case 2 on this page says case due October 7th. And then when you go into the actual Moodle assignment for case 2, if my Moodle wants to work with me, it goes October 15th. So I didn't know which date you actually wanted us to
Pushed
put
it
in.
back.
Okay.
And thank you. So when I make a change like that, I often forget where else I put the date. And so I have not apparently updated something else. So I need to go back and see. But it's the second day, it's the 15th.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, this look, we're going to have that due that week, and then we'll have stage 2 group work due the same week. I think that's manageable. I think that's better doing that.
Your email said November.
Oh, did it say November?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. You know what? I can't even. We're in October now, right?
Yes.
You can certainly keep it in November if you want.
Then when would we do 3? When would we do 3 though?
We figured that out. We figured that's a later problem.
Yeah. Please, there's a ton.
3 will be optional.
I will. I'll answer emails and stuff like that if you have any questions. But the Harvard Sun case, there's a ton of. So Frito-Lay is trying to decide whether they should launch this product, and they've done a simulated market test, and they've got a ton of data, and they've tried to push this project in years prior to the time of the case. And I know that it's dated, I get that, but the challenge is, should they launch the product? And if they do launch the product, how should they do so? What should be, there's a couple different flavor variations. They've done a ton of market research on it, and all that data is available for you to think about. So as you're crafting answers, feel free to use that information. It's there. You should use it. And again, that's in a few weeks. Next week we'll probably meet fairly briefly, or we can figure that out. But it's a group week. So a week from today, stage 2 is a group week. We're not going to do any lecturing, and that boring stuff. We're going to learn new. It's a group week. Okay, so I don't know that I'll be here for a period of time. I don't know that we'll do much since we've talked about this tonight. Then we'll just kind of think about that over this next week. But let me hand this back. Any other questions? I'll hand this back. I'll hang out. You guys can do whatever you need to do. Okay, Rachel and your group. I don't know.
I'll take it.
Jennifer and your group. I don't know where everybody is.
Thank you.
And Jordan.
That's what I was thinking.
I know you're James here, but Mason or
I already ate my
Grace.
Subheadings.
Jacob.
I do.
Who am I missing? Yeah. This is the
Nick, you can go whenever you're done. Just tell me.
I'm so sorry. translate. It doesn't get any better if I slow down. I will. I think those parts
I mean, don't worry, but I'm trying to write fast. I mean, I'm not go back and say.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Besides.
I think I was
trying to think
So not too many notes. It's kind of just like you circle things like yeah, I'll put.
Thinking about the facilitators, the constitutions, specific areas that.
well,
Anyone want yeah, no, we're all good.
Alright, yeah, I guess we can divide up.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to, that's what I went back and was like,
So this is something important that we
Yeah.
I can hold on to because I think we changes I'll do is I'll take pictures of the big comments and then I'll send it and then from there yeah, whatever you guys want to do. I just know that we're meeting for the group next week. So like I make this like from the pictures from there.
You guys Matt, literally have Matt. What did you get?
yeah, so that, yeah, these parts. Over there.
96. No, I don't. I can't. I don't know what you're saying. Okay.
Sorry, you're ready. It's to draw. Sorry. You're good. So we should be able to do it just fine.
Unless something changes.
Well,
But I'm not going to promise anything. Try to get it done.
paper based on.
Because the medical paper that we have due this weekend, and it's my birthday, so I'm trying to get everything done. Fair enough. I see.
I hope we don't have to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it done, but we'll see. Alright, we'll see. Alright, man. I'll keep you guys posted. Let me send those pictures over now. Yeah, sure.
Let me get back to you before you see it.
Yeah.
Okay, do it, and then just a quick question. So each of the 4 stages should be
We don't get points.
No, this isn't
Well, so I mean, I know, I probably
Specialized production.
For the reflection, I went to open reflections class to find out words, put it into the documents, and I don't know why I did that, but I
Just first stage.
reflections, I don't know. So I uploaded like not a complete one, like it was just notes. So can I just re-upload it?
I don't know how that works about re-uploading it, but how about you just different things?
That might contribute to the next stage.
Yeah, like it says last month, like stage 2.
Yeah, if you wanna hang on to that and maybe I can try and scan it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that. Perfect. And then we're gonna work on the next stage next.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
first of all,
Perfect.
and this is one model.
You can't forget this. Right. Thank you. I literally cry when I don't have
have money.
that value, that environmental, that industry analysis,
Yes,
kind of
ma'am.
in a way. So, it seems like you hit hard on kind of the cultural, or the cultural.
So these were like our main critiques that was in this part of the aggregate structural organization.
Well, when we talk about the cultural stuff, we tend to, sorry.
Market structure.
I don't mean to have millennials and Gen Zs, but who thinks granola bars are healthy? Furthest thing from healthy.
It doesn't mean.
Do you disagree?
I don't disagree, but people do. I would say
They do.
How good are you
They
joking?
They do. They do. I know.
Doing that right now.
I know. It's like.
Let me get my translator
This
out.
jumps fast and doesn't
It's
leave
so, so it
the.
is. So we did the environmental scan, like a hardcore look, like
That's what
why
we
are
pretty much did.
people
We
buying
tried to
these
dissect the whole
products
thing.
now? What's pushing them to do it?
I think what would behoove us is if we can, maybe go during an office hour and then
Social.
sit down and see how we can better this, so we can make it a better project too.
Well, beyond that, are there like new technologies, like new sweeteners and new ingredients?
It's about this each stage.
Basically,
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
new wheat. I kind of incorporate that. It's like it's
To make it
not
glossy.
necessarily
That's
the
what
meat.
we
It's
were going to.
it's the fact that this is the first time that the United States approved having wheat, was it genetically modified meat produced in the United States. So like that as a trend in itself.
Yeah, right, no, I totally.
Yeah, I don't know. They're laughing at me.
Oh, it's really bad. He's been very passionate about it since the
I
start.
thought it was a cool thing because I saw
It's a
that.
cool thing.
Yeah.
It is a cool thing, I'm not dissing the coolness of it.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, is something like that, could that operate as technology innovation?
It could, it certainly could, and it is. And, you know, as we move forward, like if you were going to do a product, you may definitely do a product that leverages that technology as it's new and as it's a new thing, it's a new trend that's happening. So you probably incorporate it like in your new product concept, whatever that new concept is.
Okay.
You know, or something like that. What are other things that I was thinking? Structure.
Is this something that you want us to be updating, or is something to look forward into what we do next?
So, the way I structure this is there's, you know, it's not really, so the point value on this is 50 points. A case is 75. Collectively, this is 4 50-point assignments. So like one stage is not enormous, right? What I would like you to do is, you know, I don't, students don't correct or submit a second thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, this piece is independent from the other three. If that
Oh,
makes
okay.
sense.
Gotcha. It's not.
So,
We're not formulating a massive
You know,
Paper.
I don't ask
argument.
that that's done, but it could be.
Yeah.
It actually conceivably could be, and I used to in the past have everybody just consolidated at the end.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like, it's just putting it all together at the end.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And it doesn't really serve a functional purpose, I don't think, for the course,
Okay.
doing that. But doing these individually, I think, is good. So yeah, so there's not a redo or there's not an update necessarily, but yeah.
So let's say for us to get, because I think we're all aiming to get full credit on the next one.
Yeah, well, it's a range, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Or I mean, that's what we're aiming for. You know.
Nobody got full credit. 50 out of 50.
Well, maybe we'll surprise you.
I expect that you will.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to that at all, trust me.
I guess we'll just take as much insight from what you give us on this to
Yeah.
improve
Yeah.
and whatnot, but,
Why don't you send me a copy before you submit it?
okay,
I've offered that.
that'd be
I
great.
offered it before. I offered it at the beginning of the semester. Nobody took me up on it.
Okay, we'll do
take
that.
you
We'll do that, we'll do
I
that.
will. I mean, I will offer the same whatever comments I see.
Okay, actually, that's perfect then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
We're on the same.
All right.
We're on the same team.
Yeah, no, I like that.
No
I think
worries.
I think we're gonna do good.
I know. Hey, look, I'm excited about it. Sometimes I get pessimistic when I read these comments. Don't take them personally.
Well, it's part of the progression through the class.
I love it. All right, buddy.
Thank you.